This is our series,
So many different pieces that you have to watch out for.
where the stakes are always higher,
$300,000.
where virtual meets reality,
How bad do you want it?
They're wasting no time getting at it.
where the best thrive and the flawless win. This is the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsport, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in indoor series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA,
"62 years ago, Bruton Smith and Curtis Turner broke ground on the Queen City's premier racecourse. This time of year, the top series in NASCAR head to the Roval, but keeping with tradition, we're going trucking with the Precision Racing League NASCAR Truck Series on the historic Quad Oval. After Matthew Long upset the playoff drivers with somewhat of an upset victory at Talladega 1 week ago, he looks to continue his role of the spoiler. But there is a slew of championship eligible drivers still looking to wrestle their way to victory lane and one step closer to a year-long championship. Hi, I'm Joey Tevin, and with me in the booth is Justin Prince. Behind the scenes is our director, Zach Johnson, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Now, as we head to America's home for racing, let's get to know this track a little bit better as we head to our GSRC track guide to learn more.
Welcome everybody to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Even though it was built more than 4 decades ago, drivers still love to race at this 1.5-mile quad-shaped oval. Located just a short 13-mile drive from downtown, Charlotte also shares a similar track shape to what you would see at the Texas Motor Speedway and the Atlanta Motor Speedway as well. Despite turns 1 and 2 having the same banking as turns 3 and 4, the two ends of the speedway could not drive any different. Turn 1 and 2 are much more of a sweeping corner, really carrying the speed down into the corner and trying to get that hole shot out of turn 2 down the backstretch. Turns 3 and 4 drive much tighter than 1 and 2, really having to get the car to rotate in the middle of 3 and 4 to make your entry and your exit point. Getting a lap in around here in one piece usually requires some calm nerves and a patient foot. Charlotte was one of the first speedways to install lights around the facility, giving night racing a whole new berth. Charlotte is also known for its place in the perfect day of racing every Memorial Day, acting as the caboose after the Monaco Grand Prix and the Indianapolis 500. If Daytona is the pinnacle of NASCAR racing, then Charlotte has to be just a bumper behind. Fans flock to the largest sports facility in the Southeast and NASCAR's home track. This has been our guide to the Charlotte Motor Speedway. Sit back and enjoy the show.
And that was our GSRC track guide for Charlotte Motor Speedway. Not the Roval, it's the oval, but it is a quad oval. It's an interesting quad oval at that. Justin, tell us a little bit more about this place.
Well, when it comes to Charlotte Motor Speedway and racing at this track with the trucks around its 24 degrees of banking, there are a couple different mindsets, especially when it comes to racing here on iRacing. Stick to the blue line for one, to be able to maximize the shortest distance around, but also to try and save the tires. In turn, clean air is very important when it comes to driving around this facility. As well, when it comes to its characteristics, it's very bumpy when it comes to the surface, especially on the exit of turn 4. If you push too hard on corner exit, it's very easy, Joey, to push up into the outside wall. For many drivers tonight around this mile-and-a-half circuit, to be able to win at Charlotte Motor Speedway, they'll need to be sure to get good track position, stick towards the bottom, and make sure they stay away from that safer barrier coming into the quad oval.
Those quad oval walls just love to suck you in, don't they? They're not very nice when you get out there, but some folks who were very kind and brought us this broadcast tonight are our great sponsors. Our broadcast is brought to you by ASR. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com.
It's also sponsored by RaceLab. RaceLab helps you to improve your driving skills with modern overlays, race statistics, and native VR integration. You can get the best out of iRacing. Start using it now for free at RaceLab App.
Today's broadcast is also proudly sponsored by ButtKicker. ButtKicker products add an incredible immersion and realism to any game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Check them out at thebuttkicker.com.
Today's event is also brought to you by SimMSA. Simulation MotorSports Affinity provides many consulting services, from completely customizing simulators to managing teams, individual drivers, and complete events. They're working hard to help bring everyone together at one place to support and promote sim racing internationally. Find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SIMMSA.net.
And finally, the PRL NASCAR Truck Series is brought to you by NinjaTrader. Ready to compete against the financial markets? Supporting over 60,000 users across the globe, NinjaTrader provides award-winning trading software and brokerage services. NinjaTrader is always free to use for advanced charting, backtesting, and trade simulation. Visit ninjatrader.com to get started with a risk-free trading simulator and start tracking your performance. Now, as we jump into qualifying here, we're about 2 minutes in, 3 minutes left on the clock. Let's take a look at our Drivers' Championship standings. We've only run a couple races so far this season, so it hasn't developed that much, but Matthew Long's up front, 11 points ahead of both Holly and Zemke. Then Thomas Sink in one of the other Wadaback trucks, 17 points back, and Jim Westerfield rounds out the top 5. But it is still early days, still a lot of rounds to go. Justin, let's take a look at the team's championship.
In those early days, have seen some very tight-packed racing amongst the team standings coming into today. Car Ramrod with a strong start, 153 points on the season, but then it is a trio of Wadaback teams. Back Row Racing, Next Level Racing, and Overdrive Racing, who are all within 9 points of Car Ramrod. Then you have Car Motorsports with their trucks, 25 points behind. Some very strong starts from each of these teams. Keep in mind, the victories on the season, one for a team member of Car Ramrod, the other team winner from Jamesburg Racing. Their team is all the way back in 10th, Joey.
And I believe we may have a playoff graphic here. The playoffs are still coming into consideration here, as it is the last PRL series of the season, or the last PRL season of the year, I should say. So there's where you should look to see your playoff contenders. The banner on the hood, or on the windshield, if I remember my car parts correctly, the splitter and the spoiler. So be looking out for them. That's how you will know who's a playoff contender and who isn't. And we got one more piece of business to go through. Here's the race details, Justin.
And those race details are going to be important to remember for many of these contenders today, especially since we're expecting 85 laps to be your distance today from Charlotte Motor Speedway for the third round of the season. There's 4 tire sets total in the truck series, so plenty of tire sets to come around. No fast repairs, so no spare trucks in the pit lane or garage area. Fixed setup, that's a critical thing to remember. These drivers will be running with identical setups throughout the field, and there is a 24 incident limit for today, which if you find yourself in every incident, you may get towards, but in other words, the tire sets are going to be critical in some of these restarts if it becomes a caution-precaution type of night.
About 35 seconds left on the clock. I'm not seeing very many trucks out on track right now. A couple drivers finishing up their laps. Adam Shane navigating through turn 4 at the moment. He's currently 27th. He's going to cross the line, and he does jump up quite a few spots, up to 19th on that second lap, but Oh, yeah, it does count. It took a while to go in. I thought he might have got a 0x somewhere, but no, Adam Shane up to 19th.
And it's been an interesting time the past few months. Keep in mind, if you remember from the BRL broadcast, someone that specializes in a lot of short track racing, runs a fair bit of oval events as well, can be fairly consistent. It's the long run that's been the major hamper for him. It's going to be tough, though, not having track position at Charlotte as these drivers are getting ready to hit the starting grid.
They're all gridded up. Just about everybody put in a qualifying lap, but your pole sitter is who else but defending winner Matthew Long. He's alongside Bradley Holly, another familiar name up front in the Truck Series. Then in the second row, it's Mark Kalin and Danny Cervantes. Abner Acosta, Patrick Cowgill are row 3, and the winner of round 1, Adam Zemke, lines up in 7th. And it's Daniel Knight in 8th, and row 5, Charles Sumner and Clayton Montgomery.
Separation amongst that top 10, just about a tenth of a second to Rob Haynes, who leads off the 30.7s in 11th, while Richard Thomas starts in 12th. Thomas sinks 13th position. He's had some good speed in past seasons of PRL Truck Series competition, with Colton Lane in 14th, Joshua Daniels in 15th, with AJ Roderick in 16th, Doyle Rance in 17th. Heard he had some fun times at Talladega Super Speedway, with Doug Evans in 18th position. Adam Shane, as mentioned, 19th with a 30.812, and Austin Hunter in 20th.
And the rest of the gang, CM Punk Pennington is 21st alongside James J. Dewar. Then Tom MIC, 23rd. Rob Neller, 24th. Jim Westerfield, top 5 in the championship right now, down in 25th. And Joao Guerra alongside him, Ryan Traver and Danique Momi. Nicholas Hunter, who helps us out in the booth during the PRL Cup coverage sometimes. And Dalton Geyer rounds out the drivers who set a qualifying time. And we got 4 more around the back. Miguel Angel Cardoso, Jose the Funky Cold Medina, Eric Hauk, and Derek Dennis round out the 34 strong pack of trucks for Charlotte tonight. So as we sit here for the dying moments of this grid sequence, eventually we'll go racing. I'm seeing if anybody hasn't made the grid. It looks like Cardozo hasn't come to the grid, so I wonder if he might be starting from the pits potentially. If he does, do you think that's a good move? Do you think he might have to avoid some carnage on lap 1, or do you think he needs that track position?
I think based on the nature of some of the races I've seen at Charlotte Motor Speedway, it's a toss-up, because sometimes you may get that attrition with drivers fighting aggressively off the starts and restarts, since those are the prime times to battle, especially with being very fast around this track, but also somewhat narrow. But in turn, if you get the trend that you see in a lot of cases, the mile and a halves, fairly clean, especially in the first 15-20 laps before the tires wear out, it can be a costly one where you may be trying to play catch-up the rest of the way, and in turn can cost you track position in total. So in our words, it depends really on the nature of how the start plays out, Joey, for how that's going to come out to him. In my opinion, based on the natures of this race, though, it could be where it costs him a bit of time until the first caution at minimum.
Well, we'll have to see if the Juncos Racing driver can make his way up through the field, but we're navigating through turns 3 and 4 here. A beautiful day at the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway. Matthew Long, Bradley Holly. We say that all the time pretty much in these truck races and in the cup races. Those two guys always up front in qualifying, always up front in the races, and hopefully we're in for a titanic battle tonight at Charlotte. The iRacing sedan pace car pulls off, and in a matter of moments, we are going green at Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's a decent start by Matthew Long, but Bradley Holly doing incredibly well to stay alongside.
Nice clean launch. A few drivers, though, looked like had a bit of a bobble going towards the apron through 1 and 2. That kind of checked things up around 6th on back, but a nice smooth start for these competitors.
All 33 trucks that started on the grid are still pointing in a straight line, but Matthew Long leads them all right ahead of Bradley Holly, but Holly's not going anywhere. He may have gone back into line, but he's all over the back of Matthew Long, and he's on the bottom as we go into turn 1 for the second time.
Side by side, and if you lose that bottom, it's so tricky to try and in turn save your tires. It puts so much emphasis to hold on, but in turn, if you stay up top and hold on in the short run, you can defend for several laps. It's just a matter of how much Matthew Long's willing to pinch down. He's willing to give a lot of space, though. That's going to help Holly.
Crossing the line to end lap 2. It's a photo finish at the line, but Matthew Long holds the lead. But Bradley Holly has that bottom. Behind them, Acosta and Kalen having a similar battle of their own. But down the back straight, still side by side. Holly cannot get rid of Matthew Long. He really wants to, but it's not happening yet.
And Holly, though, still has that advantage of being right around the shortest distance of this racetrack. Cleared on nice and easy. Now it's the matter of, can he defend the bottom into the corners, because it will take some time for the tires to wear in and for some of the drivers to settle on down and spread apart. The draft is fairly powerful, Joey, with these trucks.
Especially at a high-speed track like this, lots of drafting. Mark Kalen trying to take advantage of it, but he can't quite do anything with it, honestly, because Abner Acosta takes the bottom away. Abner Acosta up to third.
Abner Acosta has always impressed me when it comes to his racing ability on the ovals. He showed raw speed right from the get-go. He's been able to gain more and more speed as time has gone on, especially this year in PRL competition, not just in the trucks, but as well, of course, in the Cup Series.
A little bit of trouble for Rob Haynes. He got into the outside wall, like you said, on that tricky exit of turn 4. Slowed himself down, and Charles Sumner can see a little bit of damage on the nose of the orange truck as well from getting into the back of the beer store number 199. So Rob Haynes going to be struggling early on. You don't want damage this early on. You don't want damage anytime, but when it's this early in the race, he's going to be struggling, I'd say.
I think he's going to be struggling the entire rest of the race, because unless you get a caution flag, you're going to be down several miles per hour on straight line speed because of that aero damage. You cannot afford to put any major scrape on your respective truck in that regard. And in turn, you don't want to end up losing too many spots, so you need to be smart on how you defend, but you don't want to be over-aggressive now with that damage affecting you, which will force drivers to want to pass you quickly.
Well, he's got a buddy with damage because Charles Sumner hit the back of him, so it's front-end damage for Sumner, rear-end damage for Haynes, and it looks like that front-end damage is hurting Sumner a little bit more.
Well, that's to be expected too, right? Because that's going to push up his temperatures oil and water-wise, but also hampers the aerodynamics of the truck, as well as it will impact how well it handles and turns in the respective corner. For example, right front fender damage can cause you to be tight in many cases, Joey. Sumner's having to suffer from that majorly, and in turn, some of these drivers need to be smart in that regard to keep their trucks clean as we look at the battle for second.
It's almost like a restrictor plate race up here. The top 4, you can throw a blanket over all of them, but Abner Acosta's getting aggressive here to the bottom of Matthew Long. He started on the second row, and he's up to the front row. He's up into the top 2. It's alongside Matthew Long, but at the line, Abner Acosta will be second.
Costa's still having to hold on to that bottom line and charge a bit harder than he may have wanted to for a moment there. Matthew Long did not want to give up that second position whatsoever. The concern, though, goes towards Matthew Long's tires, Joey, because you overexert those tires, say, in the first 10 laps, you feel it by lap 25.
Here comes Mark Kalen, almost put a wheel onto the apron there, but he's going to be the next car down to the bottom of Matthew Long. Is he going to be able to clear him across the line? No, he is not, but I think it'll only be a matter of moments till that orange number 62. I tell you what, I might be getting proven wrong here because Matthew Long is keeping a heck of a run on the outside of turn 2.
It's what I was describing a bit earlier, Joey. If you're able to position yourself right in, well, comfortably, pinch on down a touch bit to hold the momentum and the amount of throttle being used by the truck below you, you can get the better run off the corner, more so today in turn 2 than turn 4. So it's a decent mechanism to defend, but it leads back into the point of you don't want to do it for too long, otherwise you're going to burn up those tires and cause problems as we see the heart of the pack, how some of these drivers are faring.
The Sumner and Haynes stack-up continues. Sumner falling back a little bit more, but Haynes now defending, well, not defending at all from Doyle Lawrence. Doug Evans trying to get by the 199. They're going to be pretty successful. Doesn't look like Haynes is putting up too much of a fight there from Doug Evans.
Yeah, I think right now these drivers are just getting into a decent rhythm because keep in mind, the gap between the 9 and the 41 trucks has already expanded to more than a second and a half. You fight for too long, you're going to cost yourself time because both of you are holding each other up with the side draft in theory. Sumner's doing a decent job, I will say, despite this heavy damage to get the outside line working, but the problem is that's not going to last forever, especially with that damage hampering down the straights and some of these air drivers just getting good runs off the corner in turn.
Speaking of good runs off the corner, Abner Acosta was on the bottom of Bradley Holly going into 3, couldn't make the move, and now, honestly, he's fallen back just a little bit, but Abner Acosta's getting aggressive, and I think he really wants this lead early on.
I think he knows the importance of clean air because with the clean air, you don't wear the tires out as much, especially with the right front tire. That aero push and dirty air causes problems, and speaking of problems.
No caution, though. The 44 CM Pennington all the way to the back. Massive damage on the front of that truck, but no caution for that. The 35 also involved Jim Westerfield. That's catastrophic for him. He's had a good start to the season in these first 2 races, but down into the pits. It's no caution for this, but it looks like we had quite a few trucks involved.
And this was Charles Sumner's pack, keep in mind, that they were racing amongst, and this was the concern that we were discussing a little bit with the damage, checking each other up, forcing the aggressiveness. There was an apology of note over the radio from Pennington because after the checkups off of the corner, he actually slid up across the 65 truck's nose to the point where he squeezed Shane into the wall. They get the worst of it. Shane is already getting significant repairs done. Of note, there is still only 1 truck in position for the Lucky Dog currently. Here's that replay, and you can see how big the incident was in turn as Pennington came up the track.
Yeah, I don't think Pennington hurt his spotter because there was definitely a truck there, but he didn't know that, or he didn't care that there was a truck up there, and unfortunately 3 trucks involved. Pennington to the back, Shane with damage, and not great for a lot of drivers, and they were hitting each other in the pits as well, so a lot of hurt feelings back there. But the battle, the raging battle for the lead continues. Abner Acosta not able to make the move for the lead yet. He is blinking a little bit, so that might hurt him a little bit because you can't get a draft while you're blinking. But he's still all over the back of Bradley Holly. And now, what's Matthew Long thinking here? Because he was fighting for the lead. He lost the lead. He started on pole. Do you think he's happy to just sit back here and let these front 2 battle it out?
I think right now the main focus is, with him being so defensive early on, is save your tires. Put yourself in a decent position where you might be able to out-strategize the others. Because he's got a solid pace. Still running, in fact, as one of the quickest trucks amongst this top 3 in turn. He's in that window, Joey, where as long as he keeps clean and doesn't fall back from the tires later on in this run, he might be able to put himself in a spot to undercut his competitors. So in our words, I'm not panicking if I'm 3rd at the moment.
Sometimes Matthew Long seems like a little bit of a wizard on the tires. He does things that should destroy the tires, and somehow they just don't, and he keeps the tires under him. I don't know how he does it. I don't think anybody does but him. But if Matthew Long's good at anything, he is good at saving those tires. So we'll see how that comes into play as we go later into the run. 19 laps into the race at the moment. Here's Adam Zemke. He didn't have the best starting position. Started down in 7th, but he dispatches of Mark Kalin, and he's up into the top 5.
Decent run so far from Zemke, as that truck seems like it wants a snuggle. Yes, I know that's an actual brand, but in that regard, it seems like Zemke has been nice and soft on those tires early to be good on the mid to long run, to set himself up to charge on forward like this.
Well, he is certainly charging on forward. Next on his list is Danny Cervantes. I'm going to do a comparison with their lap times if we can, because now that Adam Zemke's in clean air, he's got no Mark Kalin to worry about. As I say that, Patrick Cowgill also gets rid of Mark, so I wonder if Mark Kalin might be struggling a little bit on these tires early on, because he's lost, what, about 4 or 5 positions since the start?
Thinking back to many of the times I've called Mark Kalin in the Cup Series in particular, Joey, he's gone almost a bit of a reputation of being good on short run, Joey, but long run is where the struggles have been, whether it was in the open era or the fixed era. And we're seeing those ramifications coming in where he might have went too quick early on to try and charge forward. Now he's going backwards, already -4 in the race. Keep in mind, it's hard to gain lots of spots with this without a caution flag. The biggest mover is 10 spots, but he's in 22nd.
Right now, we're about 25% of the way through the race. Lap 22 of 85. 3/4 of the race to go. When do you think we're going to start thinking about pit stops here? Do we know when the fuel window ends?
Well, the longest these trucks can go on just about a majority of the mile and a half is 48, 49 laps. So that's the maximum in turn, in theory, you can go today without a caution flag to intervene in that. That being said, with it being an 85-lap race, we may see a lot of drivers try and split it up the middle, around 42, 43 laps into the run. But the biggest part of all the battling could be how much of an undercut some of the drivers go from that mark at halfway, and how many try and push on forward, because the time delta loss is nearly 2 seconds already in terms of how the fall off has been. That's a massive undercut if you execute well on pit entry and exit.
We'll see if anybody comes in early. It's still early days, so we still got a while to see the strategy play out. Here's Doug Evans, Doyle Lawrence, Colton Lane going at it. Richard Thomas going at it. Rob Thomas is a guitarist, I believe. He's not in this race, unfortunately, but Doug Evans is. He gets down to the bottom of Doyle Lawrence. The battle for 12th place. Is the bottom still alive for Doug Evans? It is, and out of 4, not clear yet.
Nice, hard-fought battle, I should say. Doug Evans has been pretty impressive in a lot of his starts over the past couple months or so. Keep in mind, when it comes to Doyle, he was one of those watching along from Talladega Superspeedway from the presidential suite. In part with the weather, but in part because of his work in regards to the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing series with designing paint schemes for Letard Esports. Got that invitation to come on to Talladega Superspeedway, and he's doing an impressive job, still amongst the top 12 at the moment.
And he is really hanging on that high line. I wonder if Doug Evans might have used up his stuff a little bit too much, because he doesn't seem to be using the top or the bottom to his advantage very much.
Yeah, I think this is more so the evening out in part, but also just the difficulty of trying to get a full-on run, because Doyle, it looks like, is really trying to charge hard on apex, and that's keeping him in a decent spot for the corner exit to where Doug Evans can't clear on by. But that being said, as mentioned, you can't do that forever, or else your tires are going to be gone.
There's been a blank slate on Bradley Holly's windshield this whole time, but it's starting to get filled up because there is a lap car coming up. That's Joao Guerra. He did not have the best start. He got a little bit loose out of 4 on lap 1, I believe. And these two leaders, they've streaked away from Matthew Long, but they're going to have a buddy in the lap Joao Guerra very soon.
And if you're Cardozo, this is not what you want to see, because significant damage for the 519. It's going to hamper them, make it fairly quick for the rapidness of these leaders to pass on by, and in turn would knock the 79 out of the lucky dog spot. And the reason, remember, Miguel was a lap down, Joey, is he started from the pits, but because he qualified at the back, by the time he was released and rolled the full length of the pit lane, the field had already passed him. So that was the danger in turn of when coming out. And in theory, if you want to start from the pits, you need to be able to qualify mid-pack, as several trucks are mixing things up while the traffic passes on by.
Yeah, good on Guerra getting out of the way here. Didn't really affect the leaders too much. Holly and Acosta get through nice and easy. It looks like Rob Neller in the 18 is the first truck coming down pit lane. I wonder, is this a strategy move, or did he get damage? I don't think he got damage. I think he's down here on merit.
He's already lost a decent amount of time, so I don't think it's on merit. Look at that front end of the truck for Rob Neller. And remember, he was among those trucks who was around that big incident we've seen before with Pennington and company. So that may be something involving that. You can see lengthy time in the pit lane, still 43 seconds.
Oh man, as we get a closer look at the nose of that truck, that thing is certainly damaged. So yeah, definitely not down there on any sort of normal strategy. He'll be in there for quite a while probably, but hopefully he will get back out. Still a lot of laps left in the race, still a lot of positions to gain. And Abner Acosta's only got one position to gain. I think he got to the bumper of Bradley Holly that time, but still can't get by him.
Yeah, you can tell he's trying different things. Get clean air, try and find any sort of run to peel him off the outside wall and force him to check up on corner exit. And that's what you have to do in turn on the long run a lot of times, is try something different. Take, for example, in the eNASCAR Work for Qualifying iRacing series, one of the drivers Blake McCallus became known for, using different lines, trying anything that the others were using. And guess who made it to the Contender Series, unofficially?
Officially, we're hearing it. It's not unofficially, it is official now, so good for him.
But it just goes into the definition of if you try and just follow in the same line over and over and hope that there's a mistake, you might not get that mistake, Joey.
Exactly, and that's what the 79 of Miguel Angel Cardoso learned here. He tried to start with the pits, hoping for some lap 1 carnage. Didn't work out. Now he's the first car a lap down, first truck a lap down, I should say. Or the second truck a lap down, because Joao Guerra is the first truck a lap down now, as he's been taken care of by about 75% of the field. Battle for the lead rages on. We can't cut away from this just because they're glued together. But will Abner Acosta be able to make a move? Is he happy to stick back here potentially? I think if we were about 50 laps further into the race, he might be a little bit more aggressive, but he doesn't have to be more aggressive, as there he is, down to the bottom. Can Holly hang on the high side? That's Danique Momi coming out of the pit lane. He'll stay out of the way. And Abner Acosta, this is the closest he's been. Can he get rid of Bradley Holly on the high side? Yes, he can.
And he just built up the perfect run to be able to draft up to the back bumper. But the main thing is, when Holly opened up the door, it was trying to use that usual arc to ramp down the banking to the blue line by the middle of the corner. And that's a major concern if you open up that door. The major concern back is Acosta has to make sure he doesn't get loose. He's been running in the dirty air the whole time, and the truck can feel different. That little bobble off of turn 2 just opened the door.
And they do have to worry about the 12 of Momi, because he's got fresh tires on that thing. He just came through the pit lane, so he's faster than these two. We talk about a 2-second difference. Momi wants to get by here. He wants to get his lap back, or one of his laps back. He's actually 3 laps down. So if he does get his lap back, he's got a lot more work to do. But it's going to be an interesting dynamic here, because we got a lap car. He is going to go racing them. He's going to go down to the bottom. He's going to send it 3 wide, or he thought about it. Not going to be close enough to do it, though.
And this is still puzzling for the lap truck. I know you don't want to be an impact for the race lead, but at the same time, you cannot go there and say, okay, let's go 3 wide. Keep in mind, the reason he's in that situation, went down the pit lane, drove through, nearly spun out on the pit exit, had to come in again for the service, and now he's put himself in this box where he has to have this pressure. These race leaders are not giving him any sort of chance to cleanly get on by without impeding one or both of them.
Oh, but they impeded each other that time, and that's going to allow the 12 to easily get by. That's one of his laps back. He's got 2 more to work with. But Bradley Holly and Abner Acosta, it looked like Acosta might have clipped the apron a little bit and slowed them both down immensely.
Yeah, if he didn't go then, though, who knows when the next opportunity for the lap truck would go. Keep in mind, too, Holly had to back up a ton to make sure he didn't hit the back bumper of Acosta before he got towards that apron. So it's getting pretty dicey here. And Matthew Law's still within that cushion spot of trying to use some strategy get in front of these two.
Trying to chase him down. The gap staying about in the high 7s, in the low 8s between Holly and Long. Adam Zemke up to 4th now, so he's continuing his charge forward. He actually got by Danny Cervantes got awfully close to the outside wall in turn 4 that last time around, but could he be a 4th truck in this battle for the lead?
An interesting question because he's one of the quickest trucks on the racetrack right now. Running 32.7s. Only driver quicker at the moment is Clayton Montgomery, who is at the back of a 3-truck pack. So Zemke's in a good situation here. He hasn't really been overexerting his tires, having to fight too hard. He's been picking his battles, and that gives him a decent opportunity and advantage here if they continue to fight behind him and around him. So that's exactly playing towards his advantage. Here's the look at Montgomery for comparison, who still is trying to fight at the same time to get around Patrick Cowgill and dealing with traffic.
There's another one of our lapped friends on those fresh tires. That's CM Pennington, who actually had damage, so he sat in the pits for a whole 5.5 minutes. He's 12 laps down, but it just goes to show you the necessity of those fresh tires, because look how much faster he is on the high line.
He's still in a spot based on when he came into the pits, though, of being in a 2-stop on fuel. But at the very least, try and keep running while making sure you don't hit the lap trucks, the lead lap trucks, I should say, of course. But you never know if you need those points down later on the line, especially to try and avoid a drop. Every point can matter if you're fighting for a championship, Joey, especially in the season.
In the PRL, they give points out for every position. So from 1st down to 34th, you're getting points. So even if it's the difference between finishing 26th and 25th, there's still a point difference there that you might need at the end of the season. Clayton Montgomery here, you see him. We got him on. Now this is Patrick Cowgill on cam. He's looking maybe a little bit nervous because he's got the 45 of Clayton Montgomery coming down to the bottom of him. Side by side through turn 4. Clayton's got a nose down to the bottom. Trying to get a little bit of suction from the lapped 44. But he's not quite able to get by Cowgill here.
We got some trouble in the pit lane just now. I believe Colton Lane may have just spun it around on the entry, and several trucks had to dodge. Absolutely huge, as Colton Lane's luck at the mile and a half continues to seem to be up and down.
The 52 of Mark Kalin was coming in behind him, had to avoid, and the 55, lots of trucks impeded by that spin from Colton Lane. Hopefully we can take a look at it again. Mark Kalin trying to get 4 tires here. I think he is getting all 4 tires. So there he goes. He's got 4 tires. He's got fuel. The pit window is open, but these drivers got to be careful. They don't want to spin it like Colton Lane did.
And keep in mind, it's an art form to enter the pit lane, and there's a reason the drivers in eNASCAR practice so much on pit entry and pit exit, especially on worn tires, because if you can maximize that time, it could be up to 2-3 seconds. This is how you don't do it. Lane sent it in very hard to the point where he locked up and nearly hit the wall, set up for the roval. Lane had to dodge, along with Kalin and company, to make sure they either didn't hit the wall or bounce off each other. And that's the result of going so hard that you push too hard and just caused wheel hop and a spin out like that.
Second place, Bradley Holly did just come down pit road. He was very quick entering. I hope he didn't speed, but I think he got it slowed down. He's leaving the pits now, so no, he didn't speed, but it was awfully close.
And Acosta now responding, and the critical part is, will the undercut be enough? We've talked about the tire fall off being now for some of these trucks more than 2 seconds, nearly 2.5 seconds, and Acosta still is getting his pit box service done. So this could be fairly close, but based on the overlap times, it may be a 1-2 second separation as long as Holly doesn't get held up.
And race leader Danny Cervantes, final driver to bring it down pit road. Well, actually not the final driver. There's a couple more stragglers who have stayed out, but here is the driver we believe will be our race leader, Abner Acosta. But Bradley Holly, there he goes, just absolutely streaking by him. That's a huge gap that Bradley Holly managed to pull in only about half a lap.
Exactly what I was just talking about, Joey. The undercut by 1 lap is so powerful on the mile and a half. The tire fall off still going to be very important, but for Acosta, it's going to be very critical to close up that 1 second without burning up his right front tire in particular, or the right rear, which started to hamper him a little bit once he got the clean air. So it's now in Holly's hands with how he played it with the timing of his pit stop.
Now Abner Acosta's got Matthew Long for company at that, so not only does he have 2 seconds to make up, he's got a very hungry Matthew Long right behind him who wants to make it up to second.
And that's the matter of two. Can Long get there? Both of them just about followed each other into the wall, Joey, with how hard Acosta's pushing. Oh, and look at that. The lap traffic just cut in front of him.
The 44 CM Pennington still getting in the way. Really impeded the 5. Matthew Long going to get to the outside, the high line here, and he has to get back in line. Unfortunately, not enough of a run, and he's still getting in the way. That's another lap truck of Cardozo, and Adam Zemke kind of boxed in here. He's got nowhere to go.
And Zemke timed it up the same lap as Hawley. The difference is, though, that traffic cost him so much time. Pennington seems to be really struggling now with those tires. He has the oldest tires remaining on the racetrack who have not had, or have already, I should say, taken service.
Now Cowgill and the gang getting by Pennington. Pennington just falling back forward. We saw the advantage he had on those tires compared to the drivers who were on 45 lap old tires, but now we're seeing the real difference. That is a damaged truck, and he is certainly struggling, falling back now. He's on his lonesome now, and he'll find some friends back there a little bit later. Patrick Cowgill and Thomas Sink were stuck in that battle for 6th place. Patrick Cowgill started 6th, he's fallen to 7th, but Thomas Sink 7 spots up since the start of the race.
Just the nature of Thomas Sink, right? He's had some very dominant performances in the Truck Series in the past, especially 2020, thinking back to Austin O'Reilly there with Whataback Racing. Still, very solid run to be able to cut on forward. He's not one of the quicker trucks of note. He might be able to still get a solid top 5 or so. I don't know how things fare out as Cowgill tries to swap things around.
Yeah, Cowgill's going to get him back here. He was very aggressive in 1 and 2, got the nose down to the bottom, and he gets him back. Patrick Cowgill straight back up to where he started. I think he's the only truck that's still where he started. And now they got to get through that lap truck that we're seeing again. It's Cardozo. This is his 2nd lap down, so unfortunately that pit start really not working out for him. But Patrick Cowgill, Thomas Sink having a pretty good day.
That's not been the greatest day whatsoever for the 79. It's worth noting, though, that Thomas Sink does have damage here, and it's to the right rear. We talked about the importance of preventing aero damage. When it's right where it's at, it can actually make you looser. The harder and more curled in the right rear fender is, the more looser it gets and burn once you put on a new set of tires. You don't really feel it too much when you initially get the damage, but once you get the fresh set, you really feel the adverse effects of the damage. He nearly sputtered out a little bit along the bumps in 3 and 4.
Last 2 laps, Abner Acosta has been quite a bit faster than Bradley Holly. He had quite the margin to the lead, but it's down to 1.3 seconds between them two. So Abner Acosta is coming.
And that's with lap traffic starting to populate very thickly ahead. That could become a factor for both of these trucks. So that's something to majorly think about. Remember this, though, the last run. Acosta really showed good speed past lap 10 at the start of this race. That same speed is starting to come into play a couple 100s quicker this time, as you see the difference.
Bradley Holly and Abner Acosta both known for late run speed. They know how to keep the tires under them. They know how to be fast on a late run, but it looks like Abner Acosta might have the better of the two of them this time. He's still got a lot of ground to make up. There is still a 1 critically in front of that gap.
Absolutely, and Acosta again starting to chip away. Here's one thing to think about too. Some of the drivers are starting to get dirtier, like Hawley. You also have other drivers starting to fight like this. You get, say, a fight in front of the leader, just like this one, inside the top 10 right now. That's going to very much hold up Hawley if, in turn, Acosta doesn't have to deal with said battle. So in our words, the factor of some of these trucks is going to become very critical across the field in turn.
Bradley Holly has met the lap traffic. He just got rid of Joao Guerra going another lap down. Kind of met him in the back on the exit of turn 4, so he did get held up there. And now his old friend Danique in the 12. Now Bradley's the one with the advantage. Brad goes down to the bottom, nice and easy this time. The 12 doesn't really have anything to do.
And that's what you want lap traffic to do. Time it up to where you're predictable and in a spot where you don't impede the traffic of your respective truck as the lead lap truck. You have it say corner exit. You're absolutely fuming because that's 2 to 3 tenths having to check up to avoid the back bumper of that truck. You see in the background Abner Acosta, that just cost him a little bit of time because he had to turn down more and burn up a little bit more of his tires and in turn lift off the gas to make sure he didn't come up the track. Holly's in that situation where the traffic seems to be playing a little bit better in positioning to him compared to Acosta.
Next up, it's a playoff truck. It's Austin Hunter. But Austin gonna do the sportsman-like thing, get out of the way. Bradley Holly nice and easy down to the bottom. See if he's just as nice to Abner Acosta. There he is, barely in the back of your shot there. Could barely see the yellow nose of the number 5. Bradley Holly easily through the 312, and now it's Acosta's turn.
Keep in mind, we mentioned the issues with Acosta before. Those technical issues could make it very difficult for a lap truck to know where the lead lap truck of Acosta is going to be. It can be vice versa when it's a lap truck hampering the leader as well. So it's not a good situation if you have a technical problem on any track, especially when you're in the thickness of how busy this track is.
Keen watchers of the ticker just saw a big moment. There was a 0 in front of the gap between Holly and Acosta. It's back to 1 second now as Acosta blinks in and out and in and out. We can't really see what the gap is, but Acosta is still coming, and he is still bringing that gap down. I guarantee you in the cockpit of that truck, he's watching the relative too. He knows he's coming. He knows he's got something for Holly.
Seems like as soon as Acosta gets a clean air pocket where there's not many major drafting factors in front of him from some of the traffic, that's where he starts to maximize in. Once he reaches some of the traffic, though, it starts to get back even footing. You see now, he's within the draft of Hunter's truck, for example. That's going to start to make him a little bit tight on corner exit and throughout said corners, but give him a pull down the straightaways. It's about balancing the positives and negatives at this point of can you time out the traffic right to use into your advantage, or will the traffic take away said time?
I believe we have a camera for Austin Hunter, so if we want to see that as he lets Abner Acosta by. Austin was very nice to Bradley Holly. Is he going to be as nice to Acosta? They're both... No, Acosta's not a playoff driver. Holly is. But Austin looking back here, he sees that bright yellow truck. He's going to stick to the bottom this time. But Acosta is certainly coming. There's Austin on your screen right now. I think he might be looking in the mirrors. He might be seeing that truck behind him. One of these days, Acosta's finally going to catch him and get by, but that day is not yet. Acosta's not catching him as fast as I thought he would.
Well, they are on similar tire set stints. Keep in mind, about 17, 18 laps. So it's that not much of a major difference, especially with the fixed setup. But here it is. Hunter's not making it easy at all for Acosta. He's indicated over the radio, he's seen the communication a bit with his lips, that he'll give it to him in turn 3.
And down to the bottom goes Abner Acosta. Wasn't so easy in 1 and 2. Is nice and easy in 3 and 4. But look up ahead. There is a buzzing nest of hornets. 4 trucks battling for position. The last 4 trucks on the lead lap right ahead of Bradley Holly. So that's going to be a little bit less easy to get through, something tells me, when there's 2 sets of trucks going side by side, all for position. Bradley Holly might not have such an easy time getting by these guys.
And just about all of them in this battle to have some sort of damage, so they're all hampered in some way or another in regards to some of the earlier incidents. But the smart thing at this point would be to try and think about where you're battling. You're battling for 21st position or so. Do you really want to be the major factor for the race leader? you have to weigh those positives and negatives. While every point does matter, you also don't want your competitors angry at you for trying to say, you know what, I'm going to go for a pass for the lead right as the leader's passing on by me.
Luckily for 184, these 4 trucks have stratified back out single file. They're not stuck together as they once were. I think that was just because Charles Sumner was so slow with that damage in front of him. It kind of packed him up. But they are back single file. That's good for Bradley Holly, but he's still got to get by all 4 of them. So even though they might not be side by side, even though he might not have to send it 3 wide, he's still got quite a few trucks to bring it through here.
Acosta continuing to just reel on in the gap as Holly's starting to be fed the dirty air from all 4 of these trucks, essentially. Acosta is just about within range, though, where he's going to be dealing with the adverse effects of the dirty air from Holly's truck. So it's now becoming a major chess match here of who's going to be able to push on through with the aerodynamics around them, as well as will Acosta have the fresher tires to be able to push on and dive underneath Holly here.
First truck for Holly to take on is the 199. Rob Haynes, not the best day for him after he got that early damage. He might be the biggest negative mover, unfortunately, and he's about to go a lap down here, but he defends the bottom just a little bit. He's not making things super easy for Bradley Holly because he wants to stick with the 05 of Tom. But no, Bradley Holly down to the bottom, nice and easy. Gets by these 2. He's still stuck on the bottom, though. And you can see Acosta is coming. He's at a much better run. Able to send it to the outside on the exit of 2. But now he's got Haynes in front of him again. And they're side by side. That's the worst possible thing for Abner Acosta.
Exactly what I was talking about. Your worst nightmare as a race leader, and Acosta's not having any of it.
He saw the gap and he went for it. Good for him. Up to 2nd place. And honestly, it doesn't look like he lost too much from that. He did lose a little, and now there's 2 more trucks for Holly to get through, 2 more trucks for Acosta to get through, but luckily those 2 are gone.
And keep this in mind, they are fighting for position behind them now in regards to these top 2, but it also is that factor of, once more, do you pick the right battle and pick the right timing? If you choose to do it in front of the race leaders, that can cause some discussion later. And in turn, there's also the thought of, I let them go. Why don't I try and go for it now and use the lead lap truck as your way of getting inside? And we're seeing that factor in for right behind. It's going to be fun, though, for Acosta. He's back within 3/10. Holly's starting to struggle, trying to fall behind Sumner off the corners.
Charles Sumner, the Tropicana Orange, number 98, got that early damage. He's been struggling all day long because of that, and unfortunately, he'll be the next car to go a lap down if Brad can get by him down to the bottom. And nice and easy. Charles Sumner getting absolutely miles out of the way, trying not to hold up Brad or Abner. But Abner Acosta did not clear him through 1 and 2. So Acosta's going to have to do it 3 and 4 here.
And Sumner, as expected, backing off, especially with the Arias position-wise. Keep in mind that the 05 did hit the wall coming out of turn 4 in that battle, which was going on right behind. You've seen some of the shuffling in the backdrop. But for Acosta, he's got a few chances to do this, Joey. This setup is going to be so critical if he wants to win this race and get the lead back.
And there's only 1 more lapped car to navigate through. The rest of them a little bit too far ahead with only 12 laps to go. This race has gone caution-free this whole time. We've made it the whole way green. Neither of these guys really want a late race restart. And Abner Acosta, he's showing a lot of speed right now across the line. It's now only about 1.5 tenths. Abner Acosta is well and truly there. But can he make the move?
If I'm Holly, do not give up the bottom, and don't do that. A massive drift. Acosta's got a chance here.
Down to the bottom. Oh, but nope. He did not have a nose underneath, and Bradley Holly knew that. He heard his spotter, and he closed off that hole. Holly's going to hold the lead, but Abner might not be so happy about that. He might think it was a little bit of a block. They're getting super aggressive. They do get rid of the aid of Derek Dennis. There's no more lap cars to worry about. It's mono e mono. And right now, Holly is the mono in front.
Looks like Holly's trying to force Acosta up the track, but what a nice cross.
Incredible crossover from the 5 of Abner Acosta, and Holly can't do anything about that. The 5 gets down to the bottom, goes a little bit up the track. Can Holly hang on those old tires on the high side? Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it, and it looks like Abner's going to get him. He's going to lead lap number 75 into turn 1. Can the high line still work for the 184? He falls back critically, and more and more and more. And I think Acosta's going to be clear here in a matter of moments.
Might be out of turn 4 at this positioning right now. Holly's doing a great job holding on, but as we've seen throughout the race, you can't hold on to the outside line forever. And now it's the matter of, can Holly fight back? Can he do anything to take Acosta's bottom line away?
Well, now Holly's the one with the draft, so Acosta now on defense instead of offense for the first time in a little while. The roles have reversed, and there goes Acosta with another slide. But luckily for him, Holly kind of matched it with the slide of his own. So Holly is fighting back here, but it's going to be tough.
You can see Holly's trying to build up a bit of that run with the line he's trying to take, matching line for line. He is getting that dirty air, but if he can get the pull down the straight and dive inside without getting to the point of contact, he might be in a very good spot here.
8 laps to go. The opportunities for Holly are running out. Oh, through 1 and 2. Not very quick. You can see him falling back very visibly. He's got to find something here with only 8 laps to go. Can he get back to the back bumper of Abner Acosta? They're not going to reach any of those other lapped cars. I think I heard something from Doyle Lawrence about wrecking. There is no wreck on track, so I don't know what he was talking about. So Abner Acosta might be a little bit worried, but he's got nothing to worry about. He's all on his lonesome, and he's streaking away from Bradley Holly at the moment.
Reason for that conversation on the radio is they nearly wrecked for about the top 12 or so when he crashed into the wall. And it's going to be intriguing if this stays green. Acosta's in a great spot, but if you put a caution in the equation, who knows what happens? Let's put it that way, especially with how even these two have been on short run today. But it's been Acosta who's had the advantage on the long run from this point forward.
I'm looking at all the closest battles on track, seeing what might be caution fodder. Charles Sumner pulling away from Derek Dennis. You can see Colton Lane, I think, ran the entirety of the apron there. Hopefully he doesn't get a slowdown for that, cutting the corner. Oh, Rob Haynes in the 199 and the number 8. They got ridiculously close through 3 and 4. Rob Haynes almost turned the number 8 into the outside wall. With only 5 to go, there's certainly a possibility of a caution, because these guys are trying hard for every position, even in the 20s.
If you're Acosta, you're saying, let's not have the caution at this point. Colton Lane, though, my goodness, he is not looking comfortable. Just drifted the whole way out of turn 4 here in this fight.
The 17 of Daniel Knight to the outside this time. Looks like he's going to dispatch of the number 60, and James Dewar in the 55. Are we about to go 3 wide? No, we're not. He thought about it, but there was no gap there. He didn't go for it. I think if we went 3 wide there, that would have been the caution, but it's not happening yet.
Now they are really showing that they know we're in the crunch time. The points paying positions on the line for many of these drivers. You have to be smart, though. In this regard, James Dewar definitely looks like he feels comfortable speed-wise, but the problem is he can't get the run he's looking for. It's going to take a bold move for him to get a pass done. He's trying that move.
The 55 down to the bottom. Baby Blue Jamie Dew down into 13th place. Gets rid of the number 60. Oh, they're all over the back of each other. Colton Lane almost turned him through the quad oval. Now can he get by Daniel Knight? It's got a top 12 on the line here for the 55. He's got the speed, but can he do anything with it? 3 laps to go.
And all right, down to 2 to go for the race leaders. That's how big the interval is. From first to this battle, 3/4 of the track ahead. Acosta just needs to have it go green for another mile plus, And he is home sailing for victory at this rate.
Yeah, this is going to be the most tense moment of Abner Acosta's race here, navigating through turns 3 and 4. Will he get the white flag? Will he get a yellow flag? He's not going to get a yellow flag. White flag's in the air. One more time around for Abner Acosta.
And it came down to the speed from about 25 laps in onward. Acosta was the fastest of those trucks around that point on forward today. And in turn, he was able to pick the spots right for when to attack for the race lead, and then could extend on forward. What a drive for Abner Acosta, up 3 spots from his starting position.
I think we might have to name the driver the number 5, the king of the long run, because coming across the line, Abner Acosta dominantly in the end wins the PRL trucks in Charlotte. Still some battles raging on here. Here's Joshua Daniels trying to knock Mark Kalin out of the top 10 in the final corner. Will he be able to down there? No, he won't. Mark Kalin, yes, he will. Will he? I don't know. What's the official scoring on that? It was a photo finish. Joshua Daniels did get him. Bad luck from Mark Kalin, falling out of the top 10 in the final corner of the race, but wow. Green all the way, no cautions, little to no accidents, and in just a few seconds, we'll be talking to the top 3, especially your winner, Abner Acosta. So we'll go away for a couple minutes, but we hope you don't. Come back here. We'll talk to the top 3.
This is iRacing, the world's premier online racing game. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat to experience today's newest form of competitive motorsports, virtual racing, all from your home PC. Race virtually in endorsed series from NASCAR, IndyCar, IMSA, the World of Outlaws, Aussie Supercars and more. Take on legendary circuits like Daytona, Silverstone and the Nürburgring. Join iRacing's global online racing community and get on track today at iRacing.com.
Welcome back to the virtual Charlotte Motor Speedway as we finished a caution-free race, 46 minutes of green flag action at the Charlotte Motor Speedway, and it was Abner Acosta who came out on top here in North Kakalaki. The long run king kept those tires under him incredibly. Abner Acosta wins. Bradley Holly was second. He was second in qualifying, second in the race, and Matthew Long a little bit lonely in the second half in third place. Adam Zemke made his way through the top half of the field, finished fourth, and Danny Cervantes was fifth. Clayton Montgomery made his way up to sixth ahead of Patrick Cowgill. Thomas Sink was a big mover. Doug Evans, potentially the biggest mover, 18th to 9th, and Joshua Daniels, by the skin of his teeth, rounds out the top 10.
Mark Kalin, after that bumping and banging finish for 10th position, got shuffled to 11th. The difference, a couple 100s between him and Daniels. Daniel Knight quietly from 8th to 12th tonight, while James Dewar charged through the field to get from 22nd starting position up to 13th. Colton Lane, despite a spin into the pit lane and overrunning his pit box, still came away with a 14th place finish, shockingly, while the 22 truck, Farrakhan, goes from 33rd position, one of the drivers who did not set a time, to a top 15 run just 25 seconds back. Lawrence starts in 17th. He ended up finishing 16th after contact to the outside wall, while Nicholas Hunter finished 17th. Last drivers in the lead lap, Richard Thomas, Jose Medina, and AJ Roderick rounding out the top 20.
And finally, the used car lot, all the cars and drivers who came away with a little bit of damage. Charles Sumner still brought that thing home 21st despite all the power being squeezed out of it. Dalton Geyer, 22nd. Rob Haynes, 23rd. Austin Hunter, Derek Dennis, Tom Emacier, the last drivers on the lead lap. Then Jim Westerfield, unfortunately for him, 2 laps down. Joao Guerra, Miguel Angel Cardoso didn't work out for him, starting from the pits. And Danique Momit, we saw a lot of him, wasn't for the lead, 30th. Ryan Traver, CM Pennington, Rob Neller, and early out Adam Shane round out the 34 car field for tonight. But from 34th, we go back to first because the long run king, as I will be calling him for the rest of time, Abner Acosta, incredible on the long runs as always. You won it by 1.6 seconds. Did you know that was going to happen starting that second stint?
Good evening, guys. Yeah, well, I knew I was really strong on long runs. But I did get a little worried with like 20 laps to go because I wasn't closing in as much as I thought I would be. But I just stayed, taking it easy and just catching him little by little. And I just pushed that in the last 10 laps there. And I was able to get by him. But I knew it was going to be difficult to get by Brad again. So I'm just glad that I didn't sooner than later.
Well, the lap traffic was a big talking point. We were talking about how it would hold up you, and then it would hold up Brad, and then it would hold up you both equally. Do you think you came out on the better end of it, or do you think they did a good job of getting out of the way?
Oh, no. I was pretty upset with the lap traffic. I don't know. They were just taking their lanes, even though we were right there. I think there was an instance there where I think Brad got by 2 guys, and I was right behind him, and then they just decided to battle for position. And I get it. They're in a race as well, but I think that's when I just went 3 wide in the center. I kind of lost patience there. But yeah, no, lap traffic was difficult. I'm not sure how bad Brad got it, but I know it was a little frustrating for me for sure.
Certainly seemed like it in the cockpit. And on those final couple laps, when you had that gap back to Brad, he wasn't attacking you. Were you worried at all about a caution coming out and sending it to a late race restart?
Yes, I feel like you're reading my mind right now. Yeah, that's exactly what I was saying. Usually when I'm ahead, if there's 10 laps to go and I'm ahead or anything like that, I feel like a caution is going to come out. So I was definitely worried about that, and I could hear people on the comms. I guess they were having issues or close calls. So I was hoping really hard for no caution for sure.
All right. Well, congrats once again on your win tonight. Add it to your very, very long list of PRL truck wins. You have anyone else you want to thank before we kick you out of here?
Yeah, I want to thank everybody in the private label Team Hype team, everybody that was spotting and helping me out throughout the race. Ty, Brandon, James, Connor, Tommy, and I want to thank our other sponsors as well, Tomahawk, Neonism, Ethica, and GSRC, and PRL for hosting the league. Thank you.
That was your race winner, Abner Acosta, for private label Team Hype. See if he can defend his race win next week. But we got another driver in the booth, and I'd say, ooh, woo, he looks just like Bradley Holly, and he's with Justin Prince.
That's a way to lead in on that, Mark. But Bradley, strong in the first 25 laps, but just that 25 to lap 40 mark seemed to be the difference. How would you break down how that battle went down between you and Abner?
He was getting a little better exit than I was. I felt like after about 25 laps, I would start to spin the tires a little bit and get me a little loose, when he was definitely more, I guess, straight coming out. Sometimes a lot of the times lately, it seems like being out front is the advantage, but it seemed like today it was being in second.
I was going to say, how did the truck handle, in your opinion, once you got out of that clean air compared to the dirty air, and how difficult in turn was it to try and battle your way back?
The truck was great. I mean, honestly, I liked the way the truck felt. It rotated real well, and I could put it wherever I really wanted to, whatever line I wanted, and it just again that extra lap that Abner had in that second stint, and him being able to, I guess, you have a little bit of dirty air to put a little more wear on the right front than the right rear. It helped him out.
So 3 races down in turn in the season so far. It still remains ever so close in turn with points so far. What are your thoughts now heading towards the middle way of the season so far for the trucks?
The way it's going, the way it's been the last few seasons, consistency is key. If you can stay consistent and not having any issues basically the entire season, that's where you're going to have the greatest chance of getting the regular season championship. Now, when it comes to the playoffs, it's that comes down to the last race. We'll have to see how that goes.
Anyone you want to thank for the run tonight?
I'd like to thank you guys for broadcasting us week in and week out. Y'all put on an amazing show. All the guys in the PRL and all the organizers and all my waterback guys.
Congratulations on the run tonight.
Thank you very much.
That's Bradley Hawley coming home in second. 1.6 seconds the difference between Acosta and Hawley at the stripe, Joey.
And unfortunately, the gap between Holly and Long a little bit bigger, 3 seconds. But Matt, welcome to the booth. It seemed like it was a little bit lonely out there in the second stint for you.
Yeah, that was a pretty boring race. I was happy I got pole and the bonus points with that. And, I didn't want to race Brad and Abner too hard early in that first stint. A lot of it came down to saving tires. And kind of just got in a rhythm behind them. And after those pit stops, Abner went 1 lap longer and he came out right behind me on fresh tires. So I didn't want to race him really hard there with still like 40 to go and burn up both of our stuff. So I kind of let him go and just kind of settled in and thought I could save some tires on those two and maybe get them towards the end when they started racing each other, but it just didn't come into play. They were just better than me at saving tires in the real long run. So, but we'll take a third. I think that'll keep us in first in the championship. It's probably just what we needed, and we'll go on to the next week.
Yeah, I believe it will. I don't have my calculator out, but I think it'll keep you first in the championship. So how are you feeling about that right now? We're only 3 races into the season. There's still quite a bit of ground to go, but you got to feel pretty good being in the lead right now.
Yeah, exactly. There's so many more races left, so it's still early. It's just going to come down to consistency, top 5 finishes, and if we can keep these same type of runs up, I think we'll be there at the end and see what happens.
Well, next week we go to another 1.5 mile oval, but this time it's Kansas. How are you feeling about that compared to Charlotte?
I think I like it a little bit more than Charlotte. In the Cup cars last season, we had a rocket ship at Kansas. It kind of suits my driving style a little bit, and I don't know how the trucks will race there, if there'll be 2 grooves or just 1 groove around the bottom, but it's usually opens up to a couple lanes, so it should be pretty fun.
I hope it's very fun as well, because nobody likes a single file fest at Kansas, do they? So
not at all.
Yeah. Before we get you out of here, you have anyone you want to thank?
I think my mom was watching. Thank her. Any other friends watching? And Pebble Isle Marina for being on the car, and definitely PRL and you guys for putting on the show. Thank you.
No problemo. And we always love seeing Linda Long in the GSRC YouTube chat. She's always there. She's always a big fan. So shout out to Linda.
There we go. Hi, Mom.
Indeed. Matthew Long, 3rd place finisher, championship leader by my calculations. So good stuff from him. Good stuff all around tonight, Justin, I'd say. Green flag all the way through.
Exactly what you want to see as a competitor, to say the very least. Very fun to see a lot of the battling. But in the end, it was long run pace after 25 laps, which made the difference. Even with the 1 lap tire difference, keep in mind, I think Acosta could have gotten that rallied on in with the pace he had after that point. He looked consistent, and that was the major difference to be able to pull off in a way for the race victory tonight. Without that long run pace, it might have been Hawley's race in turn to win.
But sometimes you can't, the caution dice rolls in your favor, and sometimes the caution dice does not, unfortunately. But The folks who are always with us, no matter how the cautions fly, are our sponsors once again. ASR, they design and build the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. Visit them at advancedsimracing.com. And RaceLab, it helps you improve your driving skills. Start using it now for free at RaceLab.app. ButtKicker, feel what you've been missing at TheButtKicker.com. SimMSA, find out how you can bridge the gap between virtual and real motorsports at SimMSA.net. And NinjaTrader, visit NinjaTrader.com and get started with a risk-free trading simulator to start tracking your performance. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast listed here on your screen, and additional thanks to June Lalonde, who provides our wonderful music. Check out her Bandcamp to find out more of her great work. Thanks to the whole team that helped put on this broadcast today, and you can find more info about GSRC at globalsimracingchannel.com or through our social media listed on the screen. Also, please check out our merchandise store at simracingmerch.com/GSRC. We keep a link in the description below. And while you're down there, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel as well, so you don't miss a moment here on GSRC. Next race for the PRL trucks, as I said, is Kansas, Wednesday, October 13th, 9 p.m. Eastern. But if you want more PRL action, guess what? There's some coming up tomorrow, the F3 Series, with yours truly in the field. What do you know? So tune in for that. And we also have upcoming races for other non-PRL series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. Well, for Justin Prince, Zach Johnson, and Dougie Beard, I'm Joey Tevin. So until next time, race clean, race hard. We'll see you on the track.